Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest, absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the show. I have a couple of big announcements today. Well, first of all, it is just a beautiful day in May. The sun's shining, the birds are singing. Um, poke plants are up. I'm going to go out and harvest some poke salad tomorrow, most likely. The wild roses are in bloom. They're just filling the air with a wonderful scent. It is, I guess, what is this, mid-spring? But oh my word, is it beautiful. We've had about 5 dry, sunny days for a change. It's been a very rainy year, so it is just really nice to be outside talking with y'all today. You know, last week's show was the 26th episode. And I didn't announce it then, but of course that means I have now been doing this podcast for 6 months. That is absolutely amazing to me. I mean, I remember when I started thinking, how am I going to talk for more than a couple of episodes? But it's been pretty remarkable, and the audience is growing, the feedback's great, and same is true of the blog, Southern Appalachian Herbs. Usually about 200 to 400 doing the video lessons on Rumble. So this thing is growing, and I'm just so appreciative that y'all been on board and spreading the word. And now I've got a big announcement. I have a new book. Really excited about this. I co-authored it, and I'll tell you all about the lady that co-authored it with me. So, y'all know that whenever anyone asks me to recommend a book for beginning herbalists, I always recommend Maria Treven's books. Maria Treven was a lady in Austria who really reintroduced, repopularized German folk medicine. She brought German folk medicine back to the consciousness of the collective world. Um, her books are fantastic. And in her books, not only are all the plants that grow in my region, but she quotes and references several of the old German herbalists, and I've been able to search out their books and learn so much. I mean, I've done episodes on St. Hildegard von Bingen, Father Nape. Well, one she mentioned a couple of times, and I could not find anything on him. She referred to him as Abbe Künzle. Okay, that means Father Künzle. So I knew he had to be a priest. He was an herbalist. I began searching, and I found just a few references to him on the internet. I'm not exactly sure. I don't speak German. It could be Künzle. Anyway, it's somewhere close to that. Co-author, who's also from Austria, would be able to tell you a lot better than I can. Um, he wrote a book in 1911 called Herbs and Weeds. Now, this book was revolutionary. Just as Father Nape had written his book 30, 40 years earlier on herbs and trying to show the common person how they could treat themselves and their families, in their own kitchen. Father Künzle was a Swiss priest, and he did the same thing in a more brief and straightforward fashion. He was a very dynamic, feisty, interesting man, really. He wrote this little book. It's really more of a booklet. It was less than 40 pages. It was called Herbs and Weeds. That's the English title. And it was hugely popular. I mean, I believe it went through more than 20 revisions and reprints, but it came out right before the World Wars. So it never really made it out of Germany and Switzerland and other Germanic speaking places. You probably could have walked into any home in Central Europe in the 1920s, 1930s and seen a copy of his book. It was just very popular. It was very much geared to the common person. He told you how to walk out, take a walk in the woods, take a hike through the Alps, take a stroll through a meadow or a pasture, and the weeds and wildflowers that you could pick along the way to use to treat common ailments. He described what they were. He told you how to gather them. He told you how to make teas or tinctures out of them, how to use them to treat yourself and your family. And, at the time, this was extremely controversial. I mean, this was the time when the medical establishment was taking over. I mean, that's when America was passing the Pure Foods and Drug Act. That's when the doctors were really trying to drive all herbal and folk medicine just absolutely out of practice. And he stood athwart history yelling stop, as a famous man once said. He stood athwart history yelling stop. And not surprisingly, of course, he was sued by the medical establishment and persecuted by the bureaucracies. And he actually went to court and fought and proved that his herbal remedies could be as or more effective than the drugs the doctors were using. So he really established German folk medicine, by which I mean Germanic, not necessarily the country of Germany, but the Germanic tradition, as a viable alternative to, um, modern medicine. If we'll just put it in that terms. I mean, it wasn't terribly modern as we would see it now. What they were doing in the 20s wasn't terribly modern at all. Uh, but that's the direction things were moving in. Men in white coats. Well, his book, having come out when it did, you know, what half the world was at war with Germany and its allies. So if you were in America, if you were in England, if you were in France, there was no way, even if you came from German heritage, you were not going to have a book in the German language in your home. You weren't going to see it in a bookstore. A lot of German books were taken out of libraries, stuff that had nothing to do with the Nazis or anything. It was just a very anti-German time, very understandably. Um, they even renamed the hamburger in America. The hamburger had just gotten popular before World War II. And he said, we can't have a hamburger that's named after Hamburg, Germany, right? So people started coming up with all these synonyms to continue selling the hamburger. The hot dog, which would be a wiener, they wouldn't call it a wiener anymore. That's when it really started to become referred to as a hot dog. So having a book um, written in German was just, not going to happen. So, um, Father Künzle, and again, that's spelled Kunzle. He continued as a priest. He continued writing. He continued teaching people about herbs until the church basically said, "Look, you can't be a priest or a monk and have a full-time job on the side. You have to choose one or the other." And I guess he pretty much looked around and said, there are plenty at that time, plenty of priests and religious around here. There aren't very many people that are practicing herbalists. So he really retired and worked as an herbalist for the last few years of his life. But he left just an incredible legacy in this little booklet. Okay. I'll just give you just a quick list of some of the plants. He talks about arnica, eyebright, ramsons or ramps, that's the wild leeks or garlic that I love so much, pimpinella, stinging nettles, amazing uses for ferns. You remember the whole show I did a couple of weeks ago on ferns and their medicinal uses? I sourced a lot of that from this book. Um, Lady's mantle, goldenrod, Herbal flower hay. Now, this is such a very unique to German folk medicine remedy. It's just hay flowers, and they take them and they make a basically a bath to soak in. It's just, excellent for so many ailments. I mean, it's excellent for joint pain, aching muscles, the skin. It helps with all kinds of stuff, and you're going to enjoy that one because these are the same wildflowers that can be found anywhere where they're not spraying things with Roundup, at least, or whatever that other one is they're spraying on hay these days. Really bad stuff. Y'all, we gotta get away from the chemicals. And trust me, Father Künzle would be the first to say that. He believed God put everything here for a reason. We have everything we need for health. We just have to learn to work with what's natural. And he believed in long hikes in the mountains. He believed in moderation in eating and drinking, but not being a vegan or a teetotaler or anything like that. Just really enjoying the outdoors, just enjoying nature and a simple, happy life. And that really shines through. The man had a great intellect, of course. Um, he had a great wit and humor, and he was feisty. I love the way he takes to task modern society at his time. Oh, he talked about hawkweed, St. John's wort, caraway, anise, fennel, and parsley, masterwort, moss, medicinal uses of moss, mint, wood avens or St. Benedict's herb, um, dead nettle, plantain, meadowsweet, juniper, figs, chickweed, wormwood. He had spring cures, when you've been stuck inside all winter and your immune system's a little down, kind of a blood cleansing spring purge to get you ready for the new season. Um, he had, herbs to stop bleeding. He had various home remedies for, first aid and such, remedies for diarrhea, um, oh, blisters and abscesses from summer heat. Something you see a lot in the mountains when people aren't used to hiking and being outdoors. Um, remedies for calluses, corns, warts. Whole section on treating children's illnesses. Colic and various things. He's got a section on lung diseases and tuberculosis, runny nose and congestion, toothaches, injuries, stomach diseases, heart troubles, headaches. His advice on not standing on cement floors, which is very good advice. Uh, a good, the proper use of chocolate and cocoa, so you don't get constipated. Talks about edema, even sweaty feet. I love this. He said having sweaty feet was like the best illness you could have because that's true. Your body, as you sweat, especially through the feet and the palms and the armpits and such, is excreting toxins. It's a way of keeping you healthy. Um, he talks about gallstones, kidney stones, chilblains, rheumatoid arthritis, nervousness, um, diabetes. He has a section on treating livestock diseases like foot and mouth disease or um, such as that. Talks about cures for the elderly, weak legs and such. The teas to help with flu. Just all kinds of stuff. He's got a great section on homemade vinegars and the health benefits. Um, and then, just a beautiful section on trees. And I mean, all this was literally wrapped up in this little 30-something page booklet, this little pamphlet. So, I'm a moderator on the forums at the Grow Network, and we've actually just added a few new moderators. I'm really excited to introduce them to everybody. If you come over to the Grow Network, and you're going to love these folks. They're all over the world, but one of them is Jolanta Wittib. Now, Jolanta is from Austria. She lives in those very Alps, and the picture she's shown me is just gorgeous. And honestly, I know her elevation's a little bit higher, but this looks so much like where I live. Like if I was to go up on Beach Mountain and look out, or yeah, I mean any of the high peaks around here, Mount Mitchell, Roan Mountain, Grandfather Mountain, it's something between the Scottish Highlands and the Alps. And the way it looks, and certainly in all the plants that grow there. That's one of the main reasons I'm so drawn to the Germanic folk medicine. That and because it's so common sense and it's so rooted in tradition and the monastic medicine, and it's not, new age or hippy dippy or anything. And they're so precise in their language. I mean, that's one thing German speaking people are known for, is just a very clear, concise precision of language. They don't run on at the mouth like us Irish folks do. So I got to know Jolanta, and she's a wonderful lady. She's a professional herbalist, and I asked her, are you familiar with this book? And she was somewhat familiar with it. I said, I cannot find that this has ever been translated into English. Are you aware of it? And we did a lot of research. We found that it once was briefly. It was just a straight, exact, translation of the booklet, and it came into print and went out almost as quickly. I mean, it just came and went and disappeared. And I said, your English is better than mine. And would you be interested in translating this book? It could be a fun winter project for us. And she said, sure. And I was thrilled because, like I said, you could not buy this book. It's not only out of print, but it's not in English. She got a copy of the 1937 edition, and she spent a couple of months translating it. And she sent it over to me, and I looked at it, and we started talking. And what became very clear very early on was that basically it needed to be expanded upon for modern readers. Okay, it presupposed a regional knowledge and a knowledge of plants that people in 1911, 1920, 1930 in the Alps would have known. Everybody would have known what yellow gentian was. Everybody would have known what meadowsweet was. It's all around them. In our modern era, people are nowhere near as connected to the nature and the plants. So first of all, we decided, we need to address that. Also, there were certain terms that were very unique to his Swiss German dialect that we needed to kind of explain. Also, a lot has happened since the publication of that book. I mean, as herbalists, we stay abreast of all new developments and research into herbs. We know more. Sure, you might say we've forgotten more, but we've also learned a little more about certain things and certain, diseases and their treatments. Now, of course, legally, I can't say the word treatment, but you understand what I'm saying. We understand the nature of things a little bit more since we've had access to all the microscopes and chemistry and all that. So the two of us said, this is such an important work. It can't be lost. It would be just a tragedy if this book was lost. And that, is what was happening. So we said, well, how about if we put our heads together and we'll write a commentary by modern herbalists? So we each went through and wrote our commentaries, and she took beautiful pictures of most of the plants. I'd say 90% of the plants, just gorgeous photography. I used my publishing skills and put the thing together, and we came up with well over a 150-page book. It's about 160 pages. So this is a brand new, completely brand new work. I mean, the original was just a little pamphlet, and now you've got 159 well, we'll just say 150 pages without the table of contents and cover and our little bios and such. And I'm so excited about this. It's come out really well. And tomorrow, when this podcast goes live, you'll be able to buy this book. I'm going to have a buy now button in the show notes. It's an ebook. Now, I've done this in PDF format. We would like at some point in time to do it in print. Right now, we've set it up as best possible so that if you want to take this and print out your own copy on a home printer, it will print well. It's formatted for that very reason. We're actually even putting a little extra space at the left-hand margin so that if you want to put a spiral binder on it or put it in a folder with a little clip on the side, you can do that. The photos are nice color. They really pop. Everything's organized just very well. And here's the other benefit of doing it this way. If there are any revisions or additions, if you buy the book, I'm going to send you the new copy free of charge. I'm going to keep a list of everybody's email address who's ever bought the book. And whenever there's an update, I'm just going to send you a new copy. When the time comes, if we are able, and I think we will, to put this in print, anybody who has already bought the ebook is going to get a substantial discount. Basically, you're just going to pay for the paper itself and the shipping. So I'd love it if you'd go ahead and buy this book. It's going to be $10.99 for the ebook. It's going through PayPal, so everything's safe and secure. Um, and as soon as I get notification the payment's cleared, could take 24 hours, probably won't, but you'll get I'll email you the file. It'll come directly from my email address. You know it's coming from me, and it's safe and good to go. And I think you're just going to really enjoy that. And if people will do that, if you go ahead and buy the ebook, it'll give us a little bit of budget to work with and some more options as far as doing the print book. So, like I said, I am super excited about this. And I think, honestly, if y'all love this book half as much as we do, um, it's going to be so worth it. I mean, this is a bargain. This is wisdom and knowledge that, we came actually pretty close to losing this one. And so it's really been an honor to kind of pull this one back to the brink and to be able to provide it to all of you, my friends, my listeners, my readers. I'm just so excited about it, and I'm sure you can tell that in my voice. So I guess that's wrapping it up. Remember, look in the show notes. You'll see the Buy Now button. If you want to go to the my blog, southernappalachianherbs.blogspot.com, I've got a little write-up. You can see a picture of the cover, and I'll put a picture of the cover, with the show notes. And yeah, I mean, this is fun. This is one. Like I always say to every beginning herbalist, I'd say recommend Maria Trevin's books. Well, now I've got one more that I can recommend just as highly, maybe even higher. And yeah, it's cool. It really is. So this is a new beginning for me. It's as an author, an herbal author, and I'm pleased and honored, and I feel just people always say they're humbled by something, and sometimes you think, well, why does someone say that? Well, you know, that's exactly how I feel to have gotten the opportunity to do this and to be able to share it with people. It's something I never could have guessed would have happened when I started this podcast 6 months ago. And it's only possible because of the friends I've made on the Grow Network, because of the people like you that listen to my podcasts, because of the feedback I get from you on the various forums that I participate in and the emails I get from you. And I am truly, truly grateful on this beautiful spring day in May for all these blessings. So, y'all, have a good one. And you know what? I hope you can buy the book. If you can't, I understand. Just say a prayer for me. And I'll talk to you next week. The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.